So just a recap of what we've done so far. The first step we did was we prepared our canvas with our water wash. The second step that we did was we mixed a red-orange, and that was 2/3 yellow, 1/3 red. The third step that we did was we created our horizon line here with a yellow line and a small liner. And the fourth step was to paint above our horizon with yellow. And then our fifth step was to mix a red-orange. And we created that by mixing 2/3 yellow, 1/3 red, and then we added it here. And then our sixth step was to add red, and then we mixed up a purple with a little bit of white in it, more on the red side, and then we added that to the very top.
Nelly, I add my tablet so we can, I need to make sure that I have this one when I go to Colorado. So that's why it shows me twice.
Okay.
All right, just to let you know.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, are you going to be painting when you're in Colorado?
Uh-huh.
Oh, very nice. Very
yes,
nice.
So I need to bring my tablet because I use my work computer, so I need to leave drop off my work computer or lock it somewhere.
Oh, okay, perfect.
All right.
So the next step is going to be for us to mix the red-orange that we mixed earlier. And with that color, we're going to paint the bottom part. So again, that was 2/3 yellow and 1/3 red. Don't worry if you're not there yet. Once I'm done filling up the whole canvas, I'm going to stop and we're going to take a break. You just want to make sure that you mix enough paint to be able to fill up the whole spot. So yeah, and where I'm at, it's really dry, so my canvas isn't even holding the water that it had earlier today. So weather kind of impacts things, especially with acrylic paints. With oil paint, I feel like my canvas would be fine, and it would be more like, oh, my paint is slipping around. But right now it's like, oh, it's really, really dry. Just want to make sure that's nice and solid. And then we'll stop here and we'll take a break. And again, if you're still working up here, what I would recommend is to just do everything like from the bottom up, and then layer again and layer again and layer again. Because if you're going back and forth, you're going to find that it's going to be difficult for you to match in between. So it really helps to be able to follow a pattern So if you're still working there, if you're having trouble with that, I would recommend going back to the yellow, mixing up some red, orange, going in there, going into the red, and then the purple back down. And then just make sure to clean your brush in between, because right now, if I'm going in here with the yellow, with the red, orange, it's going to be clumpy with the yellow because it's already dry. So just an FYI. For the top part of my painting, I feel like it's kind of like really, really see-through. So what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna go back down here. I'm not really too worried about that area. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to go back up here. I'm gonna make sure that it's dry. Okay, it's dry. So wherever it's red, I'm just gonna go in. So that way I can show you what I mean by don't go down, go up. So here, I'm just gonna go in here because I'm noticing that where my purple area, it's a little bit see-through. So I went in there just with my red, right on top of where the red was before. My paint is dry, so I'm able to not pick up the paint like I was earlier today. And then now I'm gonna go back on top with my other purple. So again, you don't want to go from like top to bottom because then you're gonna have to like fix a whole bunch of stuff. You just kind of want to make it easier for yourself. And not go into different layers because then it's going to be really, really hard to blend. And so I'm going to go in here now. And then I'm just going to go into where the red is because the red is still wet. And now I'm making it a little bit more what I would consider translucent or more opaque. But it only works if the paint is still wet. If it's not, then it's not going to work. And you can bring in that color down a little bit if you want, but again, it has to be on top of wet paint. Or else it's not going to work. Okay, so we're going to take a little break. I will be starting back up at, I want to say like 5:10. Right now it's 5:04. And then we'll be moving on to creating our cloud area. And then after that, we'll be moving into creating our landmass area. And then we'll be doing our palm trees. So we'll be doing the palm trees last. I just want to give everybody enough time to be able to, like I said, blend. And then also at the end, when you're drawing your palm trees, to make them, you know, nice and have enough time to be able to do that. Okay, let's see. For our next color mix, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be using the same color we used up here. And that's going to be the first layer for the clouds. And so go ahead and mix that up. And that's going to be step 10. And that's going to be a 2/3 red, 1/3 blue. And then after you mix that, you're going to add a little bit of white to it. So again, it's going to be the same color that you have up there. And that's going to serve as the first layer of your clouds. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the silhouette of the cloud so you guys could see how the process or how my process is. So it's going to start here, and then I'm just going to draw the outline, and then I'm going to trace down here, and then I'm going to fill it in. So I'll be drawing the outline in a moment. I'm just going to wait for everybody to be able to mix your stuff, and then you can look at the outline that I have going on, and then I'll fill it in so you guys can see it. So I like to, when it comes to like painting more like graphic stuff, I like to just create shapes, just basic shapes to work from. Also, be careful with your water cups because they're probably starting to look like a little bit like wine. So just make sure that you have your wine cup and your water cups a little bit separated because I know mine's looking a little more red. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the outline. And I'm taking my round brush. And they're just like upside down or like upside down U's almost. And you can do them however you'd like. This is just kind of like how I draw them out or drew them out in this particular piece. And then if you want, you can also do like a straight line underneath and then just fill in your shape with that same paint. So I'm adding a little bit of water to mine. Like I've said multiple times, it is a really, really dry day today, and I can tell just by how the paint is touching my canvas, it's very, very dry. For me, it always just helps to draw out the outlines or what is called the contour, and then you can go in and fill in the shape. So I'm going to leave it there for a moment just because it might be easier for you to just see the outline first and then fill in the shape next. So I'm going to leave it there for you so you could see it well. And again, you can change things however you want. Eventually, we're going to add another color cloud in the back. So if you're looking at the reference, that's what you're looking at. So I haven't added that yet. So I'm going to go ahead and start filling it in. And I'm using my small brush, but you can use a bigger brush if you'd like. So like I said earlier, there are some little like red orange clouds literally right behind the bigger clouds. So I'm going to mix up that same red orange that we did for down here and for here. And so I'm going to put the mix in the chat box. It's 2/3 yellow, 1/3 red about, or whichever mix that you were able to come up with that you liked. And then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to outline and then you're going to fill in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline for you and then I'll wait for you and then I'll fill it in. So again, you want to start with your yellow when you're mixing because you don't want to get any of the red inside of your yellow. We're not going to be using too much yellow after this or red. So this is probably going to be like the last, well, actually we're going to do like a little purple later, but for the most part, we're not going to be using too much mixing anymore. So again, you just want to create your red orange. And if it's not exact, don't worry about it. Just try your best to get it as close as you can, but it's not going to make a huge difference, I don't believe. Unless you brought your red orange or your orange way down here. So again, I'm just going to create an outline. Let me see here. So there's one outline, and then you're going to want to fill it in. It's very subtle. This one isn't like super pronounced as the other ones. And then we have another section over here that kind of blends in. And then you want to just carefully fill it in. And then again, you're more than welcome to create more clouds if you'd like, or less clouds, however you want. This is your painting. And then I'm just going to carefully fill it in. Just don't go inside of the purple just yet. So it's just going to add a little bit more dimension to your painting. And then the original painting, there's also a layer of other clouds that are the same color, but they're on top of the purple. You don't have to add that, but if you want to, I'm going to add them just so you guys could see them, but they're not necessary. They're really, really subtle in the original painting. But I'm gonna go ahead and add them so you guys can see them. And again, those are just optional. They touch the water and then they go into the clouds, so. And even though it's the same color as this one down here, because of just how light the paint body is, it looks like a completely different color. And it might be really hard to see from your perspective. I'm going to add them and then I'll zoom or I'll move my camera closer to my painting so you guys could see what it looks like. So again, it's pretty subtle. I'll move closer so you can see. See, it's what I'm talking about are these really, really subtle clouds that are in there. But again, you just draw them in. They're not like super faded into the background or anything.
What color are those?
They're the
First
same-
clouds?
these ones here. Angela, these ones here.
Yeah, the ones in the first.
This one here. They're the same as this color. They're the same color. They just look really different because they're on top of different colors. And again, it's optional, red, orange clouds in front of purple clouds. They're the same color as the ones behind the purple clouds. Just they look different because they're on top of different colors. So this is where we're going to, either you're going to take out a Sharpie or you're going to take out black paint or both, whatever you feel comfortable using, because we're going to start outlining certain areas. And so it tends to work a little bit better if you have a Sharpie and then you fill it in with black paint. That way you have like a nice straight edge to be able to work from. However, if you feel comfortable using a paintbrush, then I recommend using a paintbrush for that. But we're going to be working down here. Let me just go back. Back. There we are. Okay. And I'm going to give you guys some time to catch up. I still see people working, so I don't want to rush anybody. But just FYI, if you do have a Sharpie, I would recommend using that. Mostly actually for like the palm trees. The landmass shouldn't be too much of an issue. However, the palm trees seem to, like if you don't have like a really nice straight edge or a little fine brush, it might be difficult to get the lines and the details of the palm trees. And we're going to be taking our time with the palm trees. That way you get some nice palm trees. So again, this is when you're going to take out your black paint or Sharpie, or well, you're probably going to need black paint anyway because you're going to have to fill in the big black landmass. So for the basic acrylic paints, this one here is the one I'm using. You're going to need a couple layers of this one, so just FYI. It's a little bit more watery. So just FYI, if you're using the basic Liquitex, you're going to need a couple layers. So I recommend like, well, we're not going to do too many like silhouettes, so it shouldn't be too bad.
Janelle,
Yes.
my paint is still too wet.
Okay. What part is too wet?
The one that we just did right now.
Okay, we're not going to be painting on top of that, so you should be fine.
Okay,
We're going to be painting down here, so is this part still wet or no?
the bottom, no.
Oh, okay, so you're going to be fine.
Okay.
So this is the time you're going to grab your Sharpie. I'm going to start outlining the landmass. And I'm going to be using a small brush. I'm going to add a little bit of water to it to get it to the consistency of a thick ink. If I don't add a little bit of water, it's going to just get chunky. So I just want to make sure that I have a nice fine tip. It has a little bit of water in it, so almost like a thick ink. And then I'm going to start drawing the landmass. It's kind of awkward with the camera. Okay, so let me go ahead and position my arm. The first part is going to line up right with the clouds. You're just going to create like a straight line that gets skinnier as it goes into the area. You may not even be able to see it very well right now. I'll be outlining and then I'll put the camera closer so you guys can see it a little bit better.
Are we doing this part with the paintbrush or with the Sharpie?
It's up to you. So if you want to do it with a Sharpie, you can. I'm doing it with a paintbrush because I don't have a Sharpie. Oh, there it goes. So I'm just outlining that. And like I said, I'm just doing the outside line contour for now. And then I'm going to be going this way. One tip, oops, don't go into the corner, go slightly above. If you go into the corner, it's going to create a weird tangent and your water's gonna look a little odd. So I'm going to get closer. Oh, sorry if I'm making anybody dizzy. So this is why I added a little bit of water, because once it starts drying off, you don't get like a nice straight edge. So I added a little bit of water to my paint just to make it a little bit more of a straight edge. So that's the outline. And then when you're ready, you're gonna fill in this whole shape in here, all black. And again, you don't wanna go straight into the corner down here because it's gonna create a very bizarre tangent and it'll look weird. So usually a rule of thumb when you're creating any sort of landmass or anything like that, you just don't wanna go into corners. And then I'm going to take a bigger brush and I'm just going to fill in the landmass with just black. And if you need a couple of layers, then go ahead and add a couple layers. And as I get closer to these little detail areas, I'm going to use my small brush to be able to paint in there because I don't want to mess up my outline. So for the bigger areas, I'm just using a bigger brush. And just make sure that the beach area has like a nice crisp line. Again, if you want to use a Sharpie to outline it, it might be a little more helpful. And then you may need a couple layers, so just FYI. I just made that little area go in. And then there's also like a little island over here. And it's just going to be like a little line with a little bit of a mass on top. So I'm just going to follow the line of my clouds and then just press a little bit. And that should be enough. I don't need to really draw anything out. That's a landmass over there. So again, you can use a Sharpie or you can use your paintbrush. So that's the landmass that I'm talking about. So I just literally created like a straight line right on top of the water. It kind of looks a little translucent there. So I'm gonna just make it float on top. So it's like a little island. So you can make it a little bit larger, however you want. So we're gonna go ahead and take a little break here because we're going to be creating our palm trees next. And so this also gives you the opportunity, like if you wanna go look for a Sharpie, I highly recommend using one because sometimes with like the thinner palm tree main trunk, sometimes they get a little bit fatter. So for this one, you wanna make sure that they're thin. So a Sharpie will definitely ensure that you create a thin bark, or I'm sorry, not bark, trunk. So we're gonna go ahead and take a break. That way you can let things dry. We don't necessarily have to have that black area completely dry to work on the palm trees, but I just wanna make sure that we're pacing ourselves and not stressing ourselves out. Okay, so right now it's 5:37, so we'll come back around 5:42. So in about we'll say 5:43, in about 6 minutes or so. So I will put it on here. We will be back at 5:43. Gives us time to go grab some snacks, drinks, and all that good stuff.
My camera is over there.
Probably last night.
You guys doing okay?
You see. Okay. Still very wet.
Oh, okay. It should be okay. You don't have a hair dryer?
It's almost dry, but still maybe a minute.
Oh, okay. Well, we still have a couple minutes.
From the refrigerator?
Yeah. Hola, flaquita, ¿qué onda? ¿De qué
Dale, dale, dale.
estoy secando?
Ya sé.
Do you have the dryer?
No.
Yes, use a dryer.
Yo sí tengo un dryer, pero echa el agua, echa el aire caliente.
Oh my goodness.
Pero está bien, el mío está bien. No.
No, el mío está right there, you know, by the AC. So it's just drying.
Eh,
The AC? Yeah, same with mine. It's drying very fast.
ya, el mío también.
All right, so it's 5:43. I'm going to put everybody on mute, and then we will continue. Okay, so the way that I kind of positioned these palm trees is I created like a little dot where I wanted the middle of where all the branches were going to be. And then I created like a slight slanted type line that connects to that dot. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So decide where you want your palm tree, like the middle. I'm going to put mine down here because I'm going to have one that's going to be like up here. So you can have it wherever you'd like. Like I said, position mine here. Also, because it's kind of like in a good area where it's not going to be too low or too high, but it's up to you where you want to put yours. And you don't only have to do like as the 3 that I'm going to do, you can do more. So wherever you position or wherever you feel like, hey, this is where I want the middle. Okay, so like the middle. Remember that from the middle, there's going to be like branches coming out of it like this, almost like a star. So you want to make sure that you give yourself enough room. I'm going to put mine right there. I'm going to make a little dot with my black paint or with your Sharpie. I recommend using a Sharpie if you're not comfortable lining stuff out. And then I'm going to show, I'm not going to do it just yet, but I'm going to show you like what the logic is with my trunk. I'm going to come out like this and I'm going to wave in a little bit and then out. Oops, there I go. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Just going to create one line and I always start off a little bit thinner and then I fatten it out because it's kind of hard to do the other way. So I'm using my small brush, but you can line out the outline with your Sharpie and then fill it in, or you can just use your Sharpie to create that shape. And mine's a little bit watery, so I'm gonna add a little bit more paint. And I started around here. You can start wherever you really like. And I'm gonna make the bottom area a little bit fatter because that's supposed to be the biggest part of the trunk. So like I said, I started off thinner and then you can always make it a little bit fatter, but once you have like a fat palm tree on there, it's going to be hard to take away from it. So just make sure to make it a little bit thinner and then you can make it a little bit bigger if you'd like. And again, what I did is I put a dot and then essentially I just connected the trunk part to, or the bottom part to the dot. It just makes it easier. That way you know like, hey, where is this thing gonna start? Where is it gonna end? Stuff like that. So I'll give you guys some time to get a nice shape that you're happy with. If you messed up, It's okay. If you did it with paint, I would recommend grabbing a really clean paper towel and grabbing some fresh water on your clean paper towel, and then you can wipe it off. It should be able to come off. If you messed up with paint with Sharpie, unfortunately, I think that just stays. But you can work around it. And again, we're going to take our time with this, and we'll probably move. Yeah, I'm going to move the camera a little bit closer so you guys can see a little bit easier. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working on the different palm branches. That way you guys can see how to draw them out each. It makes it a little bit easier, I feel. I was going to give you guys some templates, but I feel that sometimes it's a little bit easier to just take our time and you guys can see or do it a little bit better than if you used a template. So I'm going to start at the edge where my little dot is, and that's like the thinner part of my palm tree. And I'm going to create another line that goes like this. And you can make it like long or smaller if you like. This is going to be like the middle part of your palm or your branch, sorry. And then you're going to create another one that goes to the other side. So I'm going to start up here because it's easier from this angle. And then there's a tiny one. This one's going to be small that goes like this, just kind of like that. Okay, so we'll start like that, and then we'll fill it in as we go down. And so if you have a very fine tip, this is where I would recommend either switching over or just grabbing like a really, really fine brush. Make sure that your paint has the consistency of a wet ink, or I'm sorry, a thick ink. So what that means is add water to your paint, but make sure that it doesn't drip. So this is my black here, so it's not dripping, so it's okay. And then another way to get a really good fine tip is to grab your brush and you're going to roll it around to get a finer tip to the edge, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding some definition to these little branches. For this one, I'm going to start here and I'm just going to go out like that. And you can add more little lines if you'd like, or you can add less. I'm going to add a little bit more. You can make them longer and you can go on top of them. But you just want to make sure that you start on the line up here and then just drag the paint down. And that particular branch doesn't have any on the other side, so I'm not going to add it. I'm going to do the first 3 and then I'm going to stop. For the one in the middle, that's the little one, it has the lines going like this. So I always start with the branch and then I'm going to work my way out. So for this part, I'm going to go like this, very thin. And it gets closer towards the middle of the branch. And then out. I'm going to stop. And if you want yours a little bit more far apart, then please make sure to follow your instinct on how you want your branches. And if you want to make some parts more dramatic, then please do. I'm going to go ahead and do the next one. So the one that's over here, I'm going to add a couple of branches going this way, and then a couple going this way. So these are little twigs coming off. And again, you can make them however you'd like. You can have them sticking way out, flared out a little bit more, or you can bring them in a little bit more. And if you feel like your like certain areas need more, then I'll show you how to add them. So remember, you always start from like the middle. And don't worry, this is not going to be the palm tree. It's not going to just be these 3 little shrubs. I'm going to add more to it. I just want to kind of take my time with it when I show you guys how to do it. I'm going to go ahead and add another line here, going like this. And then this one isn't going to have anything on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the small lines here. And as they get closer to the bottom area, they're going to get a little bit longer and a little bit fatter if you want. And mine kind of blend it together a little bit, which is okay. But if you have that issue, you can just pick a couple of lines to drag out. And then I'm going to go ahead and do one over here. This one's going to be small. So it's going to actually go into the other one, and you kind of want to go have your branches meet up with each other because that's what they do in a real palm tree. And then I did 1, 2, 3, 4 this way, and then I'm going this way. So it just makes it look a little bit more organic and more natural when you have like palm trees that don't have like perfect palms or head of, I forget what they're called, but the little branches that come out. And so if you feel comfortable, you can start creating your own shape. If you want to follow, then you can just follow me. And then for this one, I'm just going to create one line going this way. And then it's just going to be a quick number of lines going like this. Like that. And if you want to make it a little bit longer, then you can make it a little bit longer. So rule of thumb, I like to start off a little bit smaller and then make my way out if I want to make them a little bit bigger. So now it's starting to look a little bit more like a palm tree. And then there's going to be another line that comes down like that. And then on this side, there's going to be those lines that come from the thicker area. And there's going to be one more that goes this way. It's going to be a little bit smaller, and it's going to be almost touching the main trunk area. It's going to be touching it as it gets closer to here. And I feel like it needs to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to balance it out, make it a little bit longer. And you're more than welcome to add more if you'd like. Maybe add some little ones. Like from here, I see like it's kind of like a weird little gap in between. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to close the gap going like that. So if you have some weird little gaps, just make little lines to fill in the gaps. And then just this part here is going to be like the thickest part. So I'm going to give you guys some time to clean that up and then ask me questions. And again, I'm just going to show you guys kind of like how my mind works here. I started with a dot, and then I went out this way, and then underneath this main branch, I went this way. So you kind of just want to curve with it almost. It's kind of like for us, you know, for the ladies, like eyelashes almost. For the ones up here, I went this way and then this way. So you kind of curve, parts don't curve. If you kind of went out all the way, that's going to be okay. Just accidentally marked my palm tree. And if you want to add more, you're more than welcome to add more to balance out your palm trees. But for this one, I'm going to keep mine a little bit smaller because the one that's going to be up here is going to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to just keep this one small. And then this one up here is, well, sorry, you guys can't see what I'm pointing at. This one up here is going to be bigger. So, you know, you can make it a little bit more, a little bit bigger, but I wouldn't add too much because then it's going to take away from the one on top. Is everyone doing okay so far with the palm and everything? Okay. Yeah, it's hard if you're using like a thicker brush. I mean, there's ways to do it. It's just, you know, different materials, different methods. Ideally, you just want to make sure that it's more dark in here and then whatever branches out is thinner. So if you're having a little bit of a difficult time, that is however you're doing your marks, as long as you keep a little bit thicker in here, thinner as you go out, you should be okay. All right, so I'll give you guys a few minutes here so you guys can create your outlines, or if you want to look up a reference online, or if you need me to send you the picture, I can send that to you. But it seems like everyone's doing really well. That's why we're taking our time with the palm trees. And then I'll be moving on to the next palm tree in a couple minutes. So at 6:05, we'll be doing the next palm tree. And then we'll do the last palm tree. And then the last step to this painting is going to be to add the highlights. And that shouldn't be too bad. So like I said earlier, the second palm tree, I'm not going to start yet, but the second palm tree is going to be a little bit bigger. The first one was a little smaller, and then this one that's going to be up here or so is going to be a little bit bigger. And so think about like where you want to place it. You don't want to place it too close to the one below because it's going to kind of mesh together. So you just want to make sure that you find like a good spot where to place it, and then you don't want to place it too high because then it might be completely cut off from the top part. So just kind of think about like, hey, where am I going to want to place this while we're waiting, and then I'll show you where I'm going to place mine, and I'll tell you what my reasoning behind it is, and then I'll get started.
Janelle,
Yes.
is the pump that we just did, is that the medium size or is that the smallest?
This is pretty much like the smallest one.
Okay.
The other two are like the same size. I mean, it's not much smaller. They're almost the same size. It's just the other one's just slightly bigger.
Okay.
It's going to be like the same type of deal, but I'll walk you guys through each step too. So you guys could see like, oh, this is like a little bit of a different shape. But if you're comfortable with following like the same type of pattern that you did for the first one, then I recommend just following the same type of pattern and then just making it slightly bigger. And then maybe adding like a couple more little branches here and there.
No, I'm not getting ahead. I'm just trying to picture it.
Oh, no, just in case, because I feel like sometimes when you figure out how to draw your own thing, you're like, oh, I just want to do it the way that I figured it out instead.
Okay.
So you guys are more than welcome to do that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so like I said earlier, if you feel more comfortable just following like the same pattern that you did for this one, then I recommend doing that, but just on a little bit of a bigger scale and maybe adding a couple more branches on your own. Or you can follow like the pattern that I'm going to be following, which is very similar to the other one, but it changes a little bit. So we start out the same. You're going to find a spot that you like. I'm going to place my dot right here. It's not going to go all the way down to where my other palm is, but I want to make sure that it's close enough So it looks like they're part of the same type of landmass here. And then the trunk area is not going to be coming from down here. It's going to be coming from the side, okay? So wherever you feel comfortable and however you feel comfortable, just go ahead and create your trunk. I'm going to do kind of like the same thing. I'm just going to make it skinny and then bend in and then out. And I'm going to start off smaller and then just create a little bit thicker line if I need to. And so as I got closer to the dot, I just made it a little bit thinner. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker on this side. So it's literally coming out from like the side as opposed to like it becoming like super into the ground. And then, so I'm going to give you some time to do that. Again, you can use your Sharpie for this, or you can use black paint, whatever you feel more comfortable with. And then again, I have my dot over here. And then the reason why we added the white to our purple is so you'll be able to see this palm tree as well. Like I said earlier, this palm tree is going to be a little bit bigger. If you feel comfortable just following the other format, then please do. Don't make your life difficult. If you found like a good shape that you like, then I would just use that. If you brought this one a little bit higher, then don't be afraid to maybe move it around. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine. Or if you feel like, oh, I want to add some from this side, then you can do that too. It might create some sort of tangent though, so just be aware of that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the branches. So for this one, it's kind of a little bit where it's kind of more like this. Instead of like little like that, I'm going to be creating a line that goes out this way. There's one that goes out this way. And there's one that goes out this way. So we'll start off like that first. Again, if you want to follow your own pattern, please feel free to do so. And I'm going to lift the camera. So sorry if it looks a little bit or starts kind of shaking. I'm going to be holding and painting at the same time. So it's going to look a little different. So it might be a little shaky. So I apologize about that. And again, I'm getting the paint to the consistency of a wet ink. And I'm going to start in the middle, and it's going to be a little bit thicker, longer, and then it's going to get shorter as you go out. And then on the other side, you're going to go the same type of direction. And then I'm making them thinner as they go in. So I know it's a little bit difficult to see because the paint color in the back is a little bit dark too. And again, it really helps to add a little bit of water to your paints. And then to roll your brush. And then for this one, I'm going to start up here and I'm going to go like this. And I'm going to meet up right where that line is. And then I'm going to do the other side this way. And then for this one, I'm going to kind of curl this way. And I'm kind of following the hedge here like that to make it look like it's coming out of that area. Sorry.
Okay, just a word to the wise if anyone is painting on the table. Be careful because you could end up getting all the paint on your arm and taking it off of your painting.
Uh-oh, is that what happened?
Word to the wise.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
That looks fun, Michelle.
Let's see if I can maybe steady this. There we go. And then I'm going to come in with a branch that goes down this way. And then I'm going to follow the same pattern of going down only and not going out this way. And I'm just making sure that my palm trees don't really touch. But if they get close, it's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. So you're basically making like a feathered star with this one. Sorry, I'm trying to get this to balance on paints. And then I'm going to do one on the other side. And for this one, you can do down this way and on top if you'd like, or you could just do on the bottom part. And if you feel like it needs a little bit more volume, then you can add a little bit on top. And again, you can add way more than I'm adding. A lot of palm trees have a lot of stuff on there. Doesn't have to look exactly like mine. Doing another line going down. And then some straight lines going down this way at an angle. And then so for this one, like I said, I'm going to create like a complete round one. For this one, I kind of went out, but for this one, I'm going to actually have stuff coming out from this area too. And you can make the branches a little bit fuller, or you can make them a little bit thinner, however you like. And then I'm going to add another couple going this way. And then I'm going to stop. And then there's going to be one that's going to be right on top. You might not even be able to see it because it's going to be blending with the trunk. Okay. And again, you can make some more coming out, just as long as you kind of have this, what is called a radial symmetry for this one, you should be fine. And again, just make sure that it's more branches and more black in the middle and that it goes out and it gets a little bit thinner as it goes out. You should be fine. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the third palm tree. And the third palm tree is going to be coming out from this area. So you're just going to need the branches for this. And I think the original one has about seven, yeah. And so you just want your branches to come out this way, and then you just fill them in. And you can follow one pattern, or you can follow like a pattern that goes down this way, and then when it goes, the branches start going that way, you can do like going this way. So you just want to start at the edge, and you're going to go over this tree or this palm tree trunk, okay? So you're going to just go over it, make a line, and it's going to mesh together with the palm tree. So some of your lines are not going to show through, and then you're just going to create this lines going this way, and then you're going to create your other little twigs going the other way. And you can make them thinner if you want as they go out. So again, I just started here. And then I'm going to just be creating lines, and I'm going to be doing like basically like a half circle. So these palm trees have what is called radial symmetry. So it's basically like circular symmetry. And then this one goes this way. And then you just go out this way. Maybe get a little bit closer. Let me see, because I'm going to get a little bit closer. Very abstract. And again, you're not doing the trunk for this one. You're just doing the little branches coming out. Bring it out a little so you can see it in context. And you can make as many branches as you want. You don't even have to do all 7. I feel like with the 3 that I have there is actually sufficient to make the point that there's a palm tree there. And again, I'm just using a little bit of water. It really does help with making thin lines. And then I'm going to do another one. Going down. I'm gonna add a little bit on the other side too. But again, as long as it's more filled in the middle part of the palm tree, you should be okay. So it's just one like peeking out. See? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop there for a moment, and then we're gonna move on to our highlights, and that's gonna conclude the painting. So for the highlights, we're not going there just yet, but you are gonna need a little bit of light purple and yellow. So we'll start with the yellow first, and then I'll show you guys how to mix up the light purple, and then that's gonna conclude the painting. So I'm gonna leave it here for you guys to fix up your palm trees or make more if you'd like. I'm gonna go ahead and reposition my camera. Sorry for all the movement. I feel like I always find the perfect angle and then I move it. Okay, there we go. So you just want to make sure that you have clean water. I'm going to go and get some fresh water for my next step here. And again, you're going to need yellow. I'll be starting up in a couple minutes to do our highlights. And yeah, it's not, we're almost done with this. It's looking pretty good. So we're going to be using our smaller brush, so just make sure that your brush is really clean and that you have fresh water for your highlights. And again, I'm going to be using my, my small brush, and we're going to be kind of doing the same technique that we did last week with the water. So if you weren't here last week, that's fine. I'm going to show you how to do that. But if you were here last week, then you kind of have a head start on everything. You're like, oh, okay, I understand how to do the highlights. I'll be okay. So this part, you know, is actually pretty optional. Like if you are happy with what you have, then, you know, just stick to what you like. But if you want to try out the highlights, then I recommend trying out the highlights. But it seems like, you know, like this painting is pretty much already complete. It just needs a little bit of a sparkle. So again, I'm going to be using a clean small brush, and I'm just going to grab yellow, just a little bit of yellow. And I'm going to test it out first to make sure that it's not going to be too opaque. And what we did last week is we just took a little bit of paint and we just literally created lines going down. So instead of going like this, we went across. So when you do your highlights, you want to just create lines going like this. And let me move this up close so you can see what I'm talking about. So you're just going to go back and forth like this. Just create lines with your brush, and then you're going to just go down and across. So I'm not going to go over the landmass, I'm just going to go in the water. So it's really subtle. So if you want to make it a little bit brighter, just add more paint on top. This should make it a little bit brighter. And that's the first highlight, and you can make them as bright as you'd like, just add more paint. For mine, my paint is really watery, so I'm adding a couple layers. But if your paint's already pretty thick, then you're probably just going to need like around one layer. And then for the one that's right here, it's basically the same exact thing, except it's like a skinny line. So you're just going to create a skinny line going down. Try to make it into like a straight line too, so so it matches the surrounding areas. And again, if you want to make them a little bit thicker, then you can. If you want to create like lighter areas, like the original one is a little bit lighter over here, so you can just drag some of the paint out to create a lighter area. And like I said, my paint is really, really thin, so I'm able to layer on top of it. If you have a little bit of a thicker paint, then you're probably just going to need like one layer. So yeah, those are the first two highlights. And then there's a bigger one over here. So I'm going to draw the shapes. And again, I'm just going this way instead of like this, because it kind of takes away from the water effect if you go like this. So I'm just going to create one thicker line going this way. And then this highlight is a little bit more thick. So I'm going to just go out this way. And then there's another one over here. And then there's the last one that goes to the edge over here. Just gonna follow it all the way down. And if your highlights, like let's say you want them a little bit brighter, I'm not gonna do this, but if you want to, you can add a little bit of white to your yellow, and it should give it more of a thicker body, and it will be a little bit brighter. So if you want to do that, you can. However, just be very careful because it might overpower the whole thing. And so for mine, yeah, it's pretty subtle. It'll dry a little bit different, so not going to overdo it. too much, but I know some of us like it a little bit brighter. So if you want it brighter, just add a tiny bit of white to your paint. But I'm sure somebody already did that because I know that you guys are pretty much catching up to all the stuff that I've been teaching you guys. And then I'm just adding a couple more layers because mine is pretty thin. So that helps. And if you're happy with how it looks, then I would stick to not putting in the purple highlights or the purple tone. And this is going to be done with ultramarine and red. Let's see. Step 19, this is optional. I say optional because sometimes these darker colors can really kind of mess up your painting. So unless you have like a very steady hand, I suggest, you know, not having or not adding them because they could be kind of like a sore or creates like a weird tangent in your painting. Purple lowlights, we'll call these lowlights. So basically you're just going to create like a lavender color. So it's going to be, I'm saying probably, I would say 2/3 blue and then 1/3 red. One-third red, and then you're going to add white. It's going to be lighter than this color up here, but you want it more on the blue side because it's going to be more like a lavender color. And this is going to be really, really, really subtle. So please, if you're already happy with your painting, if you want to try it, I would recommend trying it, but just have like a wet napkin close by where you can like immediately just take it off if you don't like it. Because it might, like I said, overpower the whole thing. I'm actually going to water mine down and I'll explain. It's going to be like a little wash almost. So we're just going to do a purple, but instead of more red, it's going to be a little bit more blue because we want it to be more like a true purple. And then you're going to add white. So you want it light. You don't want it super dark. And then you want to add a little bit of water to it. So kind of like what we did with the black, we made it the consistency of a wet ink. You want to do the same thing for this. So if you're going to do this part, my purple looks like this. So it's almost as light as like a middle gray. So you do not want it super dark. You want to add white to the purple. And the mix is on the chat. And again, add water. Water helps things kind of thin out. And then I'm going to very, very, very lightly add a little bit here. And again, I'm using a very thin brush. And see how it's almost the same tone or shade as the orange. You don't want it much darker. So if you have like a really dark tone, then add some white to it and water it down like a watercolor. I'm going to add a little bit here. So it's really, really like very see-through, like almost like a watercolor. So you don't want it super, super dark. It's going to take away from everything. And if you don't like it, I would immediately just wipe it off. And there's a little bit over here too. So again, I watered mine down so you could see like, oh, it looks almost like what would this look like? Well, yeah, like a watercolor, like see-through. And then that's it. I'm not gonna add any more because it's gonna take away from my painting. Okay, so again, don't add too much, don't get too detailed with it. Add water, because it's kind of like tempting to keep adding. But you know, if you don't like it, then just add some water to a clean paper towel, like clean water, and then just wipe it off if you don't like it, okay? Because it does kind of take away from your painting if you put too much. And that is the second to last step, because the last step is to sign your piece. We have completed yet another painting this week. And so let me see what time it is right now. Okay, so right now it's 6:38. So do you guys think that you'll be ready to do your screenshot like at 6:42 maybe? 6:42? Okay, I'm gonna put screenshot time is at 6:42. There you go. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute everybody so we can talk and I don't have to listen to myself talk.
Nobody wants to talk.
Estamos bien entretenidos.
Oh, yeah.
I know, it's already been over 2 hours of us painting. That went by fast.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun.
Hoy lo que dice tu abuelita,
¿Qué dice?
que si hablamos se nos acaba el talento.
My grandma said if we talk, our talent goes away.
Así es. Sí. Así de. Ya se acabó, mamá.
Hola, doña Juanita, ¿cómo está?
Muy bien, mija. ¿Y tú, hija?
Bien, gracias a Dios.
A ver, ¿cómo? ¿Ya hiciste tu pintura, hija?
Está bello, ma.
Ajá.
Me quedó mejor que la vez pasada, mire.
Ahora quedaron más bonitos. Ah,
Yeah.
qué bonito.
Yeah, I think we are making progress here.
¿Te parece?
A lot of progress.
They're doing fantastic. I'm going to put up the painting for next week so you guys could see what we're doing.
That will be Tahoe, ¿no?
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, we're going to be doing that. It's going to take a little bit long. I don't know if it's going to take a little bit longer, but
no.
Está bonito, hija.
Muy bonito, pero se ve muy difícil.
es la misma técnica que usamos cuando pusimos blanco. y luego pusimos azul.
Okay.
So it's the same technique that we did for that one painting where we added white and then I think it was the desert painting where we added white and then we added the other colors on top. So that's for
Yeah,
next
I'm
week.
confident that we can do it.
Yeah, you guys can do it.
Oh, yeah, we can.
It looks harder than it is. A lot of these look harder than they are.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think it's 6:42. Is everybody ready for our screenshot?
I am.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm ready when you're ready. Oh, wow.
Mira.
Crap, you guys did really well.
Que quiten esa porque miren el tuyo.
Wow, you guys did awesome. You look so beautiful. Wow.
I'm so dark.
Ese es el señor ahí está.
How to get mine to be lighter.
Just let me know if you guys are all ready.
Okay. Put it
Okay, are we all ready?
ready. Put down.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect. Let me see if I
I
captured it.
just have my eyes peeking around. I don't know how she can take it with both, with everybody. 'Cause there's 2 pages. Oh, look at
It's both.
Gino's.
Yeah, it's me and mom. It's me and mom.
Oh, they look good.
No quedaban bonitos.
Yeah. Which,
Gino, I love yours.
My top is showing picture.
mine I put
Can't see anybody else's.
Yeah, I don't think yours shows.
Oh wow, Claudia, I
Oh,
like yours.
Angela, your clouds are pretty.
I like the red you guys use, Claudia and Dawn.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's like fiery, like right as the sun's setting.
Wow.
Gladys, yours is beautiful too. Your water is so red. I love it.
Thank you.
Michelle, can we see yours? I didn't see yours. Oh my
Please.
gosh,
I gotta like.
that's
move
like
my
pro.
Chris, what is
whole-
yours?
Maybe.
Claudia Butch.
But it's
Nice.
Claudia Bustos. She's read all of it so well.
Nice.
Oh, that one there. Claudia and Dawn.
Wow,
Pretty.
you guys did great today. Gladys, I like that.
Thank you.
Oh, they're all so good. I like them
I like
all.
that one. I don't know where to sign it.
Oh yeah, look at Claudia and Don. Somebody has really great like water shadow things going on. I
Yeah.
love that.
I know, isn't it?
So
Wow.
good.
This one or this one?
They're both
Very
great.
nice.
Oh, I see the purple in that one though. That's nice.
Very light.
I wasn't brave enough to put the purple in mine.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. And then I'm like, I better
So
put very
good.
little.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, very little.
Oh, everybody's just so good. I love it.
I love them.